Hello and welcome to Qsports. I'm Umudu Gajaga and thank you for joining us. Coming up, we're talking about the African School Games which recently ended. The Gambia came home with 12 medals. 12 medals. That is a big, big achievement. And joining me in the studio is Famara Baji of Qsports, who is going to dissect into the big achievements that the Gambia had at the African Games in Algeria. And also joining me in the studio is journalist Sheikh Tijan Gay. We'll be also talking about school sports, as well as we'll be talking about Gambia's youngster in the English Premier League, Yankuba Minteh. What do we expect this season? Last season, his numbers were not bad, at least scored some goals and also made some assists. Altogether, goals and assists in the Premier League, 10, if you put everything together in terms of statistics. That is what we are going to be looking at. And also at the latter part of the program, when will the Gambia play at the Independence Stadium, especially when it comes to senior football? Just next month in September, it's the World Cup qualifiers again. We will be playing against Burundi, but it's highly unlikely for the game to be played at the Independence Stadium. What is going to happen? Why is a stadium renovation, just a mere renovation of the stadium, taking 3 years or even more? All that will be on Qsports this morning. But first, let's start with the African School Games. The Gambia won 12 medals. They participated in basketball, participated in athletics, in wrestling, as well as beach volleyball and other sports, even judo as well in the African School Games. And joining me in the studio is GRTS's Famara Baji. He went with the team. Famara, what a huge success for the country.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gajaga, for having me. And then we can say welcome to all your followers who usually follow Qsport, including myself. Before being in the studio today, I'm glad to share the platform with you and say, yeah, it's a massive, massive achievement, we can say, not the least to say. I mean, you look at a small country like the Gambia, going out there, competing with bigger countries, with all the needed infrastructures. I mean, you tell people that we don't have any infrastructure that we use, standard infrastructure that we use. I mean, they can't believe, they find it very difficult to believe. But amassing 12 medals, including 3 gold medals, I mean, at the expense of bigger countries like, I mean, Algeria themselves, the host nation, Egypt. I mean, these are countries that are ranked high up there when it comes to infrastructure. You talk about, I mean, other highly populated countries like Nigeria, winning goals in competitions that includes Nigeria. That clearly shows a lot of things. I mean, it shows that, I mean, there is talent here. I mean, there is commitment, and we have athletes who are willing to take some of these sports as their career. So 12 medals, I mean, it's no mean feat, absolutely. You look at it, we can say, as far as I am concerned, and as far as consultations are concerned, people will tell you before Gambia used to win medals here and there, but amassing 12 in a multi-sports events, I think this is the first time it is happening. So it's a great achievement, it's a great success that actually ranked the country high up there.
In terms of getting expectations before the competition, prior, you traveled with the team, you covered everything, every action that happened there. What was the team like? Was it just for participation? Because it's hugely important. This is the maiden edition of the African School Games hosted by Algeria.
Yeah, you go out there, the people will tell them you are not only going out there to participate, but you are also going out there to compete. But, you know, looking at the team and being the fact that it is the first time, you can only look at a few sports. As far as I am concerned, I was only looking at beach volleyball. I mean, because I know the players selected are very good. I mean, the athletes selected were very good. I was hoping at least they will reach the finals. But the rest of the sports, maybe athletics, I was highly hopeful that Amadou Sabali will win at least with a medal, whether it's going to be bronze, it's going to be silver or gold, he will bring back something. But the rest, I was in certain, especially basketball 3-on-3. It's not a very common sport here in the Gambia. I can't ever remember covering it here in the Gambia. I only had in Banjul, I mean, during summertime, they will organize something like that. They will play something like, they will do something like that, you know, but not like a competition that is as competitive as other sports. So I wasn't expecting that, I mean, we will reach that number. Looking at the medal ranking, you rank the Gambia 6th out of, I mean, the 50 plus countries that participated in that competition, I wasn't thinking along that line that, I mean, they are going to go out there, match some of these big countries, outperform them in some of sports like, I mean, basketball 3-on-3, athletics, I mean, you talk about wrestling, I wasn't foreseeing anything like that, but we can say the athletes actually they exceeded the expectations of many in this country.
Well, fantastic, big achievement. Well, Setijan Gay, aside from your journalistic job, you're also a teacher, somebody who's very much passionate about school sports and seeing the success of athletes. How does this make you feel as a teacher?
Yeah, first, good morning, Gajaga, and good morning to all your viewers. And well, congratulations to Famara, because he's part of the team that went and came back with.
Unfortunately, not the medal.
Yeah,
but
he's part of the team. Yes, he should have been given the medal.
I was telling them that I should be given the bigger medal because I was covering all these
sporting activities. Most definitely.
Out there.
Certainly. It's a big achievement, but it's not a surprise because Gajaga, if you look at it overall, I think it is in the junior categories that we almost got all the top honors that Gambia have ever gotten in sports. If you look at the under-17 football, if you look at our successes in under-20, it has always come on the junior categories. What that proves is Gambia have raw natural talent. But the fact of the matter is, when these talents need to go to the next level, professionalism, infrastructures, support here and there to take it to another level, that's where we have problems. And if we flip it back to history, what we normally knew in the Gambia was that we had certain basic structures back here. We had basketball that was doing very well, because growing up back in Banjul, every other night we had to go to Manesila Memorial Hall, Manesila Memorial Lawn. We've seen some players that were extremely good, that could have, if given the opportunity, that could have even go to the NBA. That was how good the Martin Johns were, that was how good the Dogs were, that was how good the Max were. Growing up, I see these people and I knew their talent. But the problem was, government back then did not have the possibility to enroll some of these players into these teams into these competitions. I can fully remember some people told me that the national team, when they used to travel to Guinea-Bissau, they had to go through Land Rover. You have to stock 12 players in a Land Rover. That was how difficult things were. So now, I think things have changed. Government do the necessary things alongside with GNOC and other, of course, sporting associations to register in these competitions. But if you come back home, you find it difficult to see these infrastructures, notably sporting infrastructures. That is the problem, to take it to another level. If you look at athletics, we are doing very well, but there are only two major events of athletics here in the Gambia, the national championship and the school championship. That is not enough. Imagine if these athletes have the possibility to compete at least 3, 4, 5 or 6 major events in the year. Imagine if we had clubs that compete regularly in athletic championship. Imagine where these athletes would be. Imagine basketball. I think basketball went for about 10 years being very dormant. It was just, I think, some 5, 6 years ago that it has been rejuvenated. Although they are doing major strides, but apart from, I think, Serakunda West and the Independence Stadium and maybe at Birkama, Serakunda East, it is very difficult to find people playing basket. The championship is not yet national. So all these things are things that we need to take into perspective so that our athletes would not only have a bigger platform but would compete more regularly, and then from there we will look at the professional aspect, how we take it to another level. Because it is only football now that is talking about a professional league. Volleyball is not talking about it. Athletics is not talking about it. But before you talk about that, you have to put your infrastructures in place. If you do that, I'm pretty sure we can reach higher heights. Although population-wise we are very small, but talent-wise we have a lot of it in abundance. But raw talent is not enough in order to go to certain level, and that's what Gambia is finding it difficult. Imagine, apart from teaching, I coach our school football team. I have nothing against the Gambia School Football Association, but if you look at the horrible conditions that you play under, sometimes you go to these games, it is you that take along your own balls. All the games that our school played, we were using our own balls. Imagine those kind of things, and a lot of other things that probably I would not want to talk about. And if you look at school football, most of these kids, Yankuba Minta, I can fully remember, played the Principal's Cup.
Yes, the Principal's Cup.
A lot of very good players. I can fully remember back in the days, Tijan Masa and Sisa will tell you, of course, when Father Goff set up Roots FC, where you had, of course, a lot of schoolboy internationals. Sheikh Ndur was an schoolboy international.
By
And
Malewada.
by Malewada. Most recently, Ato Gomez. I can fully remember when he was playing for the under-20, he was going at Sense grade 11. I can fully remember Martin Gomez, I think it was around 2014-15, he set up a very good school team for Sense that we are competing in the Banjul regional football that had the likes of Wali Fofana, that had the likes of Pogba Al-Fuseni. If Martin wasn't moved away from Sense for some other reasons, maybe that team could have been good to the first division. That was how good that team was. So if you look at all this perspective, if we had to groom our school football, take it to another level, or school sports in general, we can produce a lot of athletes. You go to schools, some of these kids are not talented academic-wise, but sporting-wise, they can go to another level. And I don't see any reason why academics could not be matched with sports. I don't see any reason because, for example, you go to the NBA, if you don't have a scholarship, you are not, of course, ordained into the NBA. If you don't have a school scholarship, you cannot. All these top players had to go through college and then go to the NBA. They can match together, and in the Gambia, it used to happen. So I don't see. Some schools would definitely tell you, well, we want to discourage sports because it is affecting their academics, and I don't believe that is the case. Going to Gambia High and Sense used to compete. They were the two top schools when it comes to sports, and back then, when it comes to academics, they were the two top schools. And I don't see, if you look at these two schools, you look at inter-schools, I had to go to the next page in order to see Gambia High and Sense. And it's something that it really pains my heart, and it has to go through this thing. It's the administrative issues that are putting it in place, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be revitalized. Fine, there are the Botrops and others are doing very well, the Jamisas and others, but it has to be across the board, and we have to really put so much perspective into school sports because it is the basis to feed these clubs. That has to be the case. We are having academies, for example. There is the National Academies Association, there's the West Coast Academies Association. I don't have any problem, but all those kids are going to school. Why can't you channel the school system for these players to have a much more proper educative setup, likewise sporting setup? That could be done. And if all the authorities, school sports, Ministry of Education, and of course all these sporting disciplines, their associations sit together, they can work it out. But all we do is sign an MOU. Those MOU, they are not implemented.
Yes, just on paper. At the end of the day.
Definitely. At the end of the day, you look at it, we need to put it to the next level because we have talent in abundance. Nobody can tell you Gambians do not have talent, but most of these talent go to one level and they of course fade away. We have to put structure so that it could be sustained to another level.
Farmer, when it comes to infrastructure, Sir touched on it a little bit. This is hugely important. In Algeria, you saw the athletic tracks firsthand. You saw the basketball court. You also saw other sporting facilities, even where the wrestling was done and the judo. You see top quality, even swimming as well. They have Olympic standard swimming pool and all those facilities. These are things that are lacking here. Those are the basics if you want to develop sports to the next level. What you've seen, do you think if the Gambia has some of those facilities, what could it bring?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, going back to what Seh was saying, I was like discussing with some other delegate members of other countries. I mean, Uganda, what they told me was in Uganda, you are not issued a license as a school to operate a school if you don't have proper plan for infrastructure, sports infrastructure. And this must happen. Government will revoke your license if they get to find out that, I mean, what you said, I mean, when they were issuing, the license to you, you don't do it. You must have almost all the infrastructures. If you cannot have some key ones like football, athletics, basketball, you must have it. And it will surprise you to know that Uganda, it was the schools who actually paid for their athletes, their students to actually go and compete in this game. Not like the Gambia where government will come and pay for everything. Saroma School, they sent a basketball team, they sent a football team, they sent an athletics team. Can you imagine? And other schools in Uganda sent other, athletes in other disciplines. Government will tell you there's an opportunity, schools will apply. They will all send in their application. We want to send our athletes there. We want to send our students there. They will try to weigh it. I mean, this school, they have all the needed infrastructure. Financially, they are strong. They can do it. They will give you the go-ahead to actually go. So it goes to tell you that because this lack of infrastructure is killing our talents. It is killing our athletes. I mean, I've been thinking about this. Is this just going to be a short-term success? What are we going to do to make sure we build on this for these athletes? So we've seen a lot of them. Bargain a bus in athletics. I mean, we can't look at any athletes and say, I mean, they've been consistently performing. And for Gina, she got it outside, not here. It was through Senegal, she was struggling all along, and then went to France. So without infrastructure, this is going to kill our athletes. We must make sure, at least, I can't wrap my head around, no disrespect to football, but you've been pumping millions and millions and millions and millions into football. Just have an indoor facility for the rest of the sports. They can do basketball there. They can do volleyball there. They can do, tennis there, handball there. They can do wrestling there. So they, at least 7, 8 disciplines will be able to use just one facility for their activities. So I think we definitely should look at this, Gajaga. Without something like this, we're going to find it difficult to actually succeed. I was telling these athletes, entering a plane for the very first time is nothing. For some people, a plane is more like a taxi for them. I mean, they don't see it as anything else. So you must make sure you build on this. If you go to the Gambia, you see you are finding it difficult to actually cope there. Go to Senegal, train with schools, probably who knows what will happen. They might be lucky, but infrastructure is something that we should consider. 50 plus years, 60 plus years, we can't still look at one infrastructure and say, okay, we have this. You tell people that our independent stadium is not ready. There are no tracks. Can you imagine all these athletes, they trained on bare sand.
Yes.
It was in Algeria that some of them,
tested
to track and to starting block. They train it there. Can you imagine? So imagine if we have this here that they've been using it consistently. I mean, the performance would have been much more better there. And some of them will they train once. They will tell you, hey, Bintamambalo, understand? I can't because
because they're not used to
training on
it.
the tracks is different from training on the sand. So I think this is something that we should holistically look at. And honestly, as Say said, it can't just be talking. How long shall we continue to talk? Okay. And school sports also. Schools is disheartening to realize that you go to these schools, some of them even don't have an open arena of 50 meters where you can go and do activities. How can you do education without sports? It's not happening anywhere in the world. So education can't go. Vicente was telling me
30 minutes of PE
yes,
week, or at most 1 hour a week.
Exactly. So, you know, and surprisingly, most of these countries, Kenya, they send in school instructors. I mean, PE teachers were the ones coaching their teams. It wasn't like national coaches, or they send in PE teachers to go with their students to actually go out there. And this is going to boost them. This is going to boost their morale. It's going to tell the government that you should continue investing in sports. It's going to encourage schools to compete in investing in school infrastructure. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. I think we should initiate something like that. Schools must make sure they give a lot of priority to sports. You can't have a lot of people in Gunjur, Stajani, Mambuna Bojang, I mean Buba Bara Bojang, they all traveled to America through scholarships because of football. They actually went out there and they were able to help a lot of people. They were able to help their families. They were able to build. So we can have something like this. If you think sports is not part of important as far as education curriculum are concerned, then you are going to block the chance for a lot of people. And in Kenya, the guy told me that is encouraging a lot of people to go to school. You speak with them, they speak very good English. They speak very well. Small girls, small boys. So if you have something like that, what is that going? It's going to help you build your country. And this issue of unemployment will be reduced because people will find means to actually employ themselves.
Yes, most definitely. So the aspect of transitioning, yes, this team, these athletes went and won, you know, in basketball, they won in athletics, they won in beach volleyball, judo, wrestling, you name it, all these sports. But now, this is a one-off competition. We're expecting it to happen sometime again next year, or maybe in 2027, in 2 years' time. So if that happens, some of these athletes, it's either maybe your age now is over the limit now. Basically, you can't compete in this. What's going to be next for them to move to the next level, to be able to transition? Maintain this consistency. Yes, at the school level, African School Games, maiden edition, you won a gold medal or a silver or a bronze medal, but how do you transition to the next level?
I think first we have to eliminate the philosophy of if you have to be successful in sports, you have to go to another country as a professional. We have to eliminate that. If you have to survive as a country on sports on the basis that my best athletes, my best footballers would go to the Premier League in order to be successful, my best basketball players will either go to Senegal or go to Egypt or go to Turkey to play basketball. The same thing applies to your volleyball players. Then at the end of the day, you cannot be successful as a sporting nation, because that cannot happen. All your best players cannot travel. Some would be lucky, some wouldn't be lucky. So at the end of the day, back home, you have to create a systematic sporting arena for all the disciplines. Just look at, we can always look at Senegal as our neighbors. There is most of the sporting disciplines in Africa. Senegal is participating. What gave them that possibility? Not only these sporting infrastructures at grassroots level, but at league level, they play regularly. You go to Senegal, they have a regular handball league, a regular basketball league, a regular volleyball league, and all the other sporting disciplines, athletics as well. So we need that. These sporting associations, they have to up their game. It's as simple as that, although they cannot do it all by themselves, because government have to have the political will in order to do it. Famara was saying one indoor basketball facility. I think every region have to have an indoor facility. Every region has to have that. You go to some of the other regions, only few schools have a basketball platform, and it is not even good.
Good, yes.
The football can be played everywhere. It's an exception, but if you look at the other sports, it's difficult. So first you have to have that, and secondly, the leagues have to be playing regularly, and it has to be national. Most of our leagues are not national. Yeah. They are just leagues for the Greater Banjul and West Coast.
And West Coast, yeah.
It's a hard fact. It is just recently we see football. We see some of the other teams from the regions that are coming up in the second division, and some in the first division we had FC. But generally, it's over from 1965 up to date, it has been always a Greater Banjul and West Coast League. And recently, West Coast have joined the fray in the past 10, 15 years. So we have to change that. A national league that is sustainable, a national league that is an employment. Because at the end of the day, government itself cannot employ everybody. The private sector, sports have to be part of the
private sector is the biggest employer.
Yes, and sports have to be a private sector entrepreneurship. That is the only helpful thing. And what sports can give you, there is no other entrepreneurship that can give you. Why? Because it can give you employment for monetary gains, but it can also give you health. If you look at the challenges that we have here, particularly drug abuse, if you look at it overall, it's killing most of our youths. Majority of our youths nowadays engage into drugs, because most of these drugs that are being peddled by youths are very difficult for drug law enforcement authorities to identify them, because they don't smell like the marijuana and all. Some of the people know what I'm saying. So imagine if those youths, most of them are engaged into sports, they will not have time for those drug abuse. So at the end of the day, we have to have national leagues in all sporting disciplines that pay people that work in it, and pay them very well. So at the end of the day, some that would be lucky enough to go to bigger leagues can earn better, but those that are staying here should earn better, because if you look at it overall, some of these athletes that were here on these All-African Games that Famara covered, you look at them in 5-6 years' time, most of them would be back here in the streets doing other things, and that is not sustainable, that is not helpful. And at the end of the day, something needs to be done. And my worry is most of the politicians that we have here, whether it is at local government level, at national government, all of them put little emphasis on sports. No, but I have not seen any program of any politician that will tell you a detailed framework of how to improve sports. And majority of the people here in the Gambia leave sports, love it. And at the end of the day, it can be a big weapon that can take the Gambia to another level, because we don't have the natural resources. We don't have much, but sports can take us to another level, as it has taken Brazil to another level, although Brazil had resources. But when you say football, everybody will look at Brazil. If you look at Uruguay, they have a population of 3 million people. Look at them in sports, particularly in football. It's more or less like Gambia.
Gambia, yes.
So at the end of the day, something has to be done, and authorities, political will always push things to go to another level. You can be an administrator, you can do everything that you want to do, but if you don't have the political will to back up the administrative reforms or the strategies that you put in place, it can never be implemented. So authorities here have to be questioned, and they need to do more. That's the hard fact.
Famara, in terms of stars producing this competition for the Gambia, the likes of Amadou Sabali, also in beach volleyball for the women, Mariama Suso, who partnered with Hoja in the beach volleyball, and also even in the male team, we've seen these youngsters. What sort of a future holds for them Some of them, this is the first time. Others have the experience. But the ones who were in this competition for the very first time, what kind of talent did you see?
Yeah, it was great that, the Gambia participated in this maiden one. The next time it's not going to be new for many of them. I got to find out, the boy who won gold medal in 100 meters, Boa Bayo, is a grade 9 student at New Covenant, going to grade 10. So that shows the next edition he will still be there. He actually got something to actually build on. You talked about beach volleyball. You've talked about, the boys and girls athletics. These are all great talents that have proven themselves beyond the Gambian standards. They've proven themselves beyond the school standards. You go to against Algeria, they were bitterly complaining that, it was Algerians who were just willing, or we are just focused on them winning that title. Otherwise, if it was based on fair play, it was going to be for the Gambia. You see a lot of questionable, decisions there by the people in charge, and that shows actually those boys, they feel cheated. Losing that gold medal to Algeria. But the future is highly bright, Gajaga. All these talents, I was trying to analyze. In the next 5-6 years, these people that they competed against are going to be the same people, who are going to, be like, elite stars for some of the countries, are going to be the same people that they're going to compete against in the next 5 years to come. So if you are able to be, to reach the finals of the beach volleyball, if you are able to grab a podium finish in athletics, those same athletes, you are able to maintain your consistency. The next 3 years, 4 years, you're going to compete with them. So if you are able to work on yourself constantly, it means that, you either maintain your position or you go above that. So the future is highly bright. We have a lot of talents here. As I stated, the government should make sure they partner with these associations. The associations need to double themselves. The NSC, through the Ministry of Youth and Sports, they need to be checking these associations. If they are dormant, if you don't want to work, you leave.
Exactly.
You go out and then allow people. Otherwise, you're killing the talents. You look at athletics. If you, Gambia, anytime they perform in Senegal, they are always the best athletes. Anytime they perform, exactly. Yeah. So at youth level,
clubs,
at youth level, you can clearly see there are talents. But when it comes to athletics, how many competitions are we having, especially from the GAA? All the athletics competition is coming from the schools.
Yeah.
So if we have it constantly, as Say is saying, the target for these African school games is to make sure Africa actually got a lot of qualifiers for the Olympics. Because they identify there's a bigger problem. When you go to Olympics, the continent with least qualifiers will usually be, Africa. And population-wise, you look at it. So it's all Caribbeans, America, and the Europe, actually winning. So they want to build it from the grassroots level to make sure they start encouraging these young athletes, create platforms for them to be competing, for their governments to be helping them. By the time of Olympics, we will be able to see, Africa getting a lot of qualifiers. So if the idea is there, the will must be there. Politically, as I stated, administratively, it has to be there. Otherwise, these talents, no matter how talented you are, at some point you feel discouraged. We've seen it with other athletes. I've been seeing you posting a lot about Z.
Yeah,
Suleiman. This was Suleiman, a boy who went to a certain extent saying that, I'm not interested in athletics. I saw that boy run at the Independence Stadium, Gajaga. No.
Quite unbelievable.
I can't believe it.
Again, he's picking up. It's good that you bring about his issue. He's now in the Netherlands trying to compete. His numbers are improving. In terms of consistency in the 100 meters, he's running faster. He used to run 10.45, 10.33, now 10.20. Now he's going to almost like 10.50. So 10.10. Yeah, so basically he's gradually going to get to some point. In fact, he will be running sub 10 seconds.
10,
So if that happens, this athlete once compete for the Gambia in Argentina for the World Youth Games. But imagine when he came back, just to get transport fare from Brikama to the Independence Stadium, at the time the tracks were on, the tracks were good, he couldn't have it. He eventually even stopped competing in athletics overall. It was at some point, some few of us, encouraged him, and then he went to Senegal. He had a club there, registered, and started competing. That is when he revived his career. So some of these things
we
are
need
really
to start
happening.
somewhere.
Yeah.
If we don't start somewhere, we'll not be able to get somewhere. How we can't just be thinking, planning, you know, trying to discuss all the time, all along. Let's start. We must start somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this issue of consistency. So say for us, most of the time, it's before competitions, 2 weeks, selection process starts, athletes, you know, rigorous training and all of that we are preparing. So in fact, when it comes to the registration bit of it, the athletes wouldn't know that whether exactly they will compete or not. Like a week before is when the travel arrangements would start. And I think consistently, you know, there should be a program, a laid out roadmap where you know this is the plan for athletics this year. Okay, we have this competition there, we have that competition there, in order to be able to move to the next level.
Yeah. If you look at, let's say, the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the National Sports Council, a lot of people blame them on some of these things, but individually, you look at it overall, you cannot blame them. You look at their budget. First, look at the budget that is allocated to them, and look at the sporting disciplines that they have to fund in the year.
That's why some even praise the current Ministry of Youth and Sports.
So at the end of the day, before the event, they will be looking at money here and there. So it will be very difficult for them to confirm the number of people that will be traveling and what are some of the things, some of the basic necessities that have to be put in place. That is why it is always late. Yeah. That is the hard fact. And sometimes they even do the work of some of these associations because fine, the associations do not have the monetary backing. Some of them do not have the administrative know-how. Let's call it a spade a spade. And of course, ministry also find it difficult to fund most of the trips. So that is why you look for funds here and there. It is at least 2 or 3 days or 1 week before the event. That's the time that you have raised some money and let's go. And it shouldn't work like that. And Farmer said something very important. If you look at, he said in Uganda, you must have at least certain sporting infrastructure for you to have a license to operate. Just imagine some 10 years ago, would you have ever imagined Uganda would beat us in football? They beat us in the last under 17.
70 years, yeah.
And that is no fluke. And look at the efforts that they're doing even at their national team level. You look at Kenya, look at the strides that they're doing sporting-wise. Of course, athletics, they've always done extremely well. But look at them in football. This tells you that there must be something that they are doing that we are not doing. And at the end of the day, as I said, we cannot be just banking on the natural raw talents that we have. That has been carrying us for decades. But now, sports have evolved to another level. There is sports science, there is sports administration, but more importantly, there is money. There's the entrepreneurship aspect of it. And Gambians find it difficult to look at the entrepreneurship aspect of it, particularly government. They always think that let's put deep money in our pockets and invest in sports. At one point of time, sports have to be self-sustaining because it is a massive revenue for commercial. It is a massive revenue basis for employment. It is a massive revenue basis to uplift itself and sustain itself. But you have to put the infrastructures in place for it to be an entrepreneurship. It's just like a business. When you invest in your business, you are investing in it in order to make profit. If it is not making profit, you have to scrap that business and look for another business. Sports at this point of time is entrepreneurship. And it's time that government thinks that way, administrators think that way.
Is it also time for the Gambia to be identified with a certain sports? Yes, I know football is the most popular. You and I, if there is a football game and then there is a basketball game, it's highly likely that we will be going to the football, especially if it has to do with the national team. Yeah, but you know, all these sports are hugely important. You have people who would give their heart and soul to basketball because that's the sports that they like, that's the sports that they want to do in the future, and they want a career out of it. But is it time for the government, no matter how meager the budget is for sports, to also get concentrated in other sports, basketball, beach volleyball? They do well, you know, in international competition.
Particularly volleyball.
Particularly volleyball at that level. So I think they need the investment for that consistency.
For the past decade also, volleyball has been the most successful sports international-wise.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, and that is going to encourage the rest of the sports to actually do well. If you say, okay, football, we cannot ignore it. There's no way we can ignore football. Yeah, we always complain, but football is played across the country. I mean, other sports, you go to maybe, I mean, I was talking to some girls in CRR. I mean, they said it was just 1-2 years ago that they started playing basketball in CRR. Can you imagine? Other regions, they don't even know what basketball is, what volleyball is. So, so you can look at it and say, okay, football, it's doing well. We need to focus on football. We need to focus on beach volleyball. We need to focus on athletics. We need to focus on basketball. These are the 4 top most sports that we need to prioritize. The rest, if there is any phone that we can put in, we put in. If there is no phone, we tell them there is no phone. But these ones we can't actually do without them. So that way, you're going to encourage the people playing in some of those sports, but you're equally going to encourage the rest of the sports to make sure they continue doing well to catch up with the rest. So I think it will not be any bad to make sure at least we prioritize some of these sports. And I think at the level of ministry, they are doing something like that for some of these sports, like, football, volleyball, basketball. Anytime they knock on their doors, they are always willing to at least give them anything that they have. As I said, it's difficult to actually get funds for some of these things. They will need to be running to the finance ministry. Finance ministry, maybe they don't have funds. They will also be waiting for some funds to come in before they will be able to give. So it makes things so frustrating that, you if you are in the setup or you are part of the delegations, you find it very frustrating because there is nobody talking to you about some of these things happening. They will wait until a few hours, a day prior to your departure, then some of those arrangements will be finalized and here and there for them to happen. So unless we actually start prioritizing and make sure we see the need to invest highly on some of these sports, we will continue to frustrate the careers of some of these talented athletes.
And some of these sports also, twice, as Famara and I were there when the press conference was held at the GNOC. You register for a competition, but just because you are late in terms of paper processing, the visa issues and all of that, the trip is cancelled. Yeah, on 2 occasions, which is really, really terrible.
Frustrating.
Somehow, I think
sports administration
people
is a problem here in the Gambia. That's a hard fact. A lot of people voluntarily get into it, and then they don't evolve in order to learn and understand it. So they find it very difficult in order to process some basic things in order to go to a competition. That's the hard fact, and that's an area that also people have to focus on. Sport administrators that have to learn and then be at the level of international standards. That's a basic problem in all the sports. Although football, one can say that they are doing better because there are certain administrative issues you can easily learn it. But if you go to the international standards, it's a challenge for all of us, and it's a challenge for all the sporting disciplines, and something needs to be done about it.
Absolutely. We'll take it.
Usually the people who are into these administrations, coaches, and all those things are people who are passionate about it. That is how people are selected. Even myself, the way I've become a coach is because I'm passionate about the game. I guess we are like, okay, we want you to be our coach. Not because I know, not because I'm willing to know. But as I said, if you are in it, you must make sure you learn the trade. Anywhere you go to, you will be able to talk about it. You will be able to, explain some of the details. Otherwise, we're going to continue. If the administrators are struggling, the athletes will definitely find it difficult to excel.
Most definitely. We will take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the Independence Stadium. When will the Gambia resume playing at the Independence Stadium? It seems like it's never going to happen. Because, yes, stadium renovation, I think we should be now in the 3rd year since it began, but nothing is happening. After the break, we'll discuss that.
Browse with us. QCell brings you a promo like never before. Get unlimited internet for just $25 Cs. Yes! Recharge $25 Cs and enjoy the convenience of free internet from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. every day with our Browse with Us promo. With this amazing offer, you can browse, stream, and download all your favorite movies for free. So why wait? Recharge $25 Cs today and enjoy free internet only with QCell between 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. For more information, call customer care on 111. QCell, Senior Bus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back and thank you very much for joining us. This is Qsports and I am Umudu Kachaga. Now, we're going to talk about the Independence Stadium. Just about a few days ago, if you like, maybe about a week ago, pictures and videos emerge of the condition of the stadium, that there are some people who are working on the pitch to ensure that, it is improved so that the Gambia can resume playing at the Independence Stadium, especially for the World Cup qualifiers and the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. But those pictures, obviously, from the National Sports Council, they completely debunk, wherever that is coming from. That is not the current state of the Independence Stadium pitch. Well, obviously, the pitch is not in the best of conditions for it to be used for international level football because it needs approval from the Confederation of African Football. The pictures that you are currently seeing was the last time an inspection was done at the stadium. I was there at night when a CAF official was meant to come and, inspect the stadium to give it a green light. Unfortunately, at that time, it didn't happen. Later on, some conditions were improved and, there was a partial, or if you like, a temporary approval for the stadium. But since then, not much has been had about the stadium. Well, the National Sports Council issued a press release just recently. This one is a revised press release, if you like. It says the National Sports Council wishes to provide clarifications regarding the planned upgrading of the stadium's hybrid pitch. Well, this is following the recent public discussions around the project. The NSC, that's the National Sports Council, acknowledged an ongoing process to hire a foreign company through a subcontractor arrangement that meets requirements of our procurement laws that assist the upgrading and maintenance of the stadium. NSC, however, emphasizes that the hybrid pitch installed at the beginning of the stadium remodeling remains in place and has never been removed, nor is the foreign company going to reinstall a new pitch as being speculated. Their mandate focuses on the following, according to the press release: supplying specialized maintenance equipment which are not available in the country. And then number 2, it says rehabilitating the existing pitch, treating fungal infections and correcting uneven surfaces, conditions that were as a result of lack of proper equipment and skilled personnel to carry out required routine functions as would be of a hybrid pitch. Well, for me, sir, this is really, really disturbing. The lack of a professionalized person, a person whose expertise is on the pitch. When this renovation was taking place, we knew all of these things, that you need a particular expertise to maintain a hybrid pitch. Why didn't it happen? Why are we at this stage, Sertijan, after 2.5 years or so?
I think overall one can say it is definitely inexplicable to basically understand why is it what is perceived to be the most simple thing in the stadium renovation becomes the most difficult thing. I think the other infrastructures cost more and it is more difficult to do than just a mere pitch. Under normal circumstances, one can say, why is it difficult for one to just maintain a mere grass pitch? One is, of course, CAF and FIFA have got some standards now, very, very different with the ones that we are used to. That is one. Secondly, and the broadcasting corporations also make some demands in terms of the green viewing of the pitch, because that would give, of course, a very good picture through some of these, of course, broadcasting corporations that cover these games. That is another thing. But more importantly, I think you will always have to question the contractors, because there is also there is always specification, there is always standards. If you fail to meet those specifications, if you fail to meet those standards, there are penalties that are always imposed. But the fact of the matter remains, how comes the first inspection failed, the second inspection came, we were giving second inspection, I think it's also failed. We did not reach this, of course, the standards. The third inspection, we were giving temporary approval. And that temporary approval, why haven't we got
build on that?
Build on that. That's the million-dollar question. And more importantly, I think at the level of the National Sports Council, I have nothing against their PR team, but I think the information that they always relay is reactionary. They will wait until people start speculating, and information is like that. If you don't give people the information, they will look for it. And some of the time, the information they get might not be the
accurate one, yeah.
The accurate one, but they will always look for information because people are interested in football. September next month, we are supposed to play. I think 2 months or 1 month before when we are supposed to play, you should tell people something about it. You didn't.
You can even show videos of the,
you didn't
the
tell
current
people
condition
anything.
of the pitch.
People had to go to look for the information, and the information wasn't accurate. That's the time that you come with, of course, a reactionary information. And at the end of the day, later on, you came back and telling us that, well, you have hired an expert. And I think these things should have been done way before they did. Yeah, the expert from outside should have been here a long time ago. That's the hard fact, because just look at the grass pitches that we have all over this country. It is always a challenge, whether it is Serekunda East, whether it is Serekunda West, whether it is Manja, it is always a challenge. So whether it is down to the soil, I'm not an expert in it, whether it is down to the competency that we have here, but it has always been a challenge. And that should have been what these authorities need to look at, and then look for a foreign expert that at least have some prior knowledge of this, or have installed pitches across Africa that have mid-calf standard, and bring them home. But that has not been the case. Although one can say we have been prioritizing local expertise, but at the end of the day, it has made us doom. And what, as I said earlier, what we thought was the easiest thing for us to accomplish became the most difficult task. And at one point of time, excuses cannot be, of course,
always
given, and people will not be able to accept it. Although this World Cup qualifiers, everybody believes that our possibility of qualifying to the World Cup is virtually inexistent, but it's high time. We needed to see our people back home playing. We needed to see our players. That connection, that bond had to be built as at now, going to the next African Cup qualifiers, because it's a must for us to go to the next AFCON. But it's just inexplicable. Sometimes the feeling that you have inside, you cannot even share it, but it's just disheartening.
Yes, so from another massive failure on our path again, if we fail to get this stadium upgraded to a standard, especially the pitch, because I think now that's the only complaint. It is not any other facility that we're talking about. It's the pitch. It's the pitch again. Inspections were done. You were there when the CAF inspection guy came, the first one, and talked about the whole lot of things. It is good to partner with the Confederation of African Football, their expertise, to come on the ground, make recommendations, and look for experts. Senegal have done renovations on their Leopold Sedar Senghor Stadium. Burkina Faso did, Kenya, yeah. Their Nyao Stadium was also banned, just like the Gambia's, so those stadiums have been renovated. Now Kenya is hosting the CHAN competition. They are expected to host the AFCON, the next AFCON, apart from the one in Morocco later this year. So obviously, I don't think we have excuse.
We've been over lenient, when it comes to this independent stadium issue, Gajaga. The last time the ministry said they are in consultation with CAF to make sure some of these things happen. But how is it possible that over 2 years this can still happen? Something is wrong somewhere that they are not communicating. I think it's very important. This has to do with the nation. This is not about the ministry. This is not about, the GFF, the NSC. This is about the Gambian population. The money going in there, it's not coming from the ministry. It's not coming from anyone. It's the taxpayers' money they are pumping into the renovation of the independent stadium. If people can take 2 years to build a stadium from scratch, make sure they finish everything. Why is it taking us more than 2 years to actually renovate a Maya Stadium? You are finding it difficult to actually get some of the works done. Go and pay people who can do it, rather than giving money to people who will not be able to do it, who will deliver haphazardly, and in the end, nothing will come out of it. And some of these contracts, the way they sign it, you find it very difficult to understand. People will come sign contracts, they will deliver zero, and in the end, they will work scot-free.
Well, for me, maybe I have a layman thinking, but for me, a contractual, if the contractor failed to deliver, well, I'm not saying, you would just come and just go and lock up the person. But basically, the person has to face the consequences.
Yes. About government, there are standard procedures for government to allocate contract to people. There are standard procedures, and some of those procedures involve, if you don't reach the standards, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, there are penalties.
Of course.
And I even understand that some of your money is being upheld until the contract is finished. After some time, a reviewing is being made before some of that money is being paid to you. So these are standard procedures, and I believe it was being employed. Whether those penalties would be imposed or not, that's the million-dollar question, and it should be.
Yes, basically. And so for the stadium, we can continue talking about it every day here. But just on a final note, the English Premier League kicked off. Liverpool step up gear, defending champions. They won by 4-2 against Bournemouth. It was a tough game. Liverpool scored twice and then Bournemouth replied 2-2. And then in the last minute, Chiesa and Cody Gakpo scored. Obviously, eventually Liverpool won the game, so they started the Premier League almost certainly like where they finished off last season. We're looking forward to our player, youngster, Yankuba Minte for Brighton Hove Albion. Last season, his performance wasn't, the best of performance, but overall the numbers weren't bad. I think goals and assists altogether 10. Famara, what do you expect from him this season?
If there's anything that he needs to learn, I mean, as far as the Premier League is concerned, the basics, I mean, he already learned it last season. So this season is go out there and deliver. Yankuba is an exceptional star. I mean, he's a modern footballer. He got the pace, he can run, he can dribble, he can kick, and the work rate is excellent. So that clearly tells you that Yankuba in this year, in the Premier League this season, I'm not only looking forward to him scoring a lot of goals, but I'm looking forward to him, I mean, being one of the key players for Brighton as far as this season is concerned. Because anything that he needs to actually deliver, that he got it, and the commitment, the passion for me, the willingness to actually excel is what is driving this ball up front. So I'm looking forward to him having a brighter season with Brighton.
Yes, sir?
Yeah, I think his numbers are quite amazing. If you look at most of the time, he plays more or less like a wing back, and most of the time he has to track back to defend. And to a large extent, I think the sale of Adingra was down to the development of Yankuba Minte. And if you knew, let's say, Brighton 2 seasons ago, Adingra was one of their best players. And Yankuba Minte came outset him in that position. And I think alongside Mitoma, they are the best white players that they have. And I believe this year he would do more. And as I said, the Gambians need to be patient with Yankuba, because this is a boy some 3 years ago was playing, of course, divisional football here. 3-4 years ago was playing divisional football. To make that big step to the Premier League, the toughest league in the world, within 3-4 years, it's absolutely amazing. So to score 6 goals and make 4 assists is an absolutely amazing start, and I believe he would do way better this season. I believe let's hope that he's injury-free. If he's injury-free, I'm pretty sure he will do way better.
Yes, Yankuba, we wish you all the best of luck this season, and we hope the numbers would increase in terms of goals. But please, don't score against Manchester United again. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's it, Qsports. Until we come your way next week. Bye for now.